This has been a very, very hot day in Scotland. We measured 31 degrees in our garden. Hello!
All right, Tim, dear, how are we doing?
I'm good. Just pouring myself a little beer.
Do you know something? I heard you opening that, and I thought, do you know what? I've not had a beer even since we locked down. I really haven't, so you're making me thirsty here.
Well, that's I mean, don't get me wrong. I've also made myself a nice little cosmopolitan.
Well, I've got a wee dram, so I'll enjoy the wee dram as we go through the year.
I was just saying, we measured 31 degrees in the garden. I mean, that's unheard of in Scotland.
I must admit, that's one great thing as well. Again, maybe you'll see my space side tan I've been building myself over the last period. So yeah, we've been lucky, I suppose. Eh?
Yeah, it's been good. I think it's helped this lockdown, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I think we'll just start off. We've got a couple of people watching. Oh, we've got yes. Oh, Shilton is watching as well. Great, Stuart. Hi, Shilton. If you have any questions for Stuart, you know what to do. Just ping them. So I just wanted to say hello and thank you so much for joining in. Today is the 6th live Instagram interview that I'm doing with one of my whiskey muckers, I should call you. I've been very lucky to be working with so many lovely people, and I thought I'll just chat to them in lockdown. And so Stewart Buchanan is hi Gert. I don't know if it's Gert or Gert, but I'm saying Gert. I know who you are. So I'm just, yes, I'm going to be speaking to Stewart Buchanan tonight, and he is the global brand ambassador for Brian Forman, and they own the Glenglassaugh, BenRiach and Glendronach distilleries. So we've got lots to talk about because I've known Stewart for many years, and can't wait to find out more about you. I mean, I think I know a lot, but let's find out a bit more. So thank you so much. And it's nice to see all of you joining in as well. Like I said, anybody that's got any questions, just let me know. And I should post them to Stewart. Now is your chance to ask anything. He has agreed to answer any questions. So how are you?
Good. No, really good. Do you know, and busier than ever. I don't know. I think time's really getting out the window these days. I don't know about yourself. Maybe a bit more structured with the kids, but I'm finding myself, even this morning, I'm getting waking up earlier and earlier. I'm up at 4:30, bright and breezy. I'm in the garden at that time already. And generally I'm kicking off even tastings at 9 AM. So this morning it was live to Australia, 9 AM. Again, that was 6 PM their time. Cash strength whiskies galore for breakfast. So yeah, busier than ever.
It is tough, isn't it? Like 9 AM cash strength whiskey. I mean, that is pretty hard going. But I understand because you represent the brands. I mean, you're Scottish. I say "are" because I used to work with you, but you're the Scottish man behind the brand. So you need to help with the training of the new staff and introduce, I don't know, whiskey shops across the world. So you can still do that now in lockdown. How has your job changed actually? Because normally you would be flying all over the world, but how has it changed?
It is, and do you know something? I suppose it was 2012 I started the ambassadorial role, and I don't think I even spent 2 weeks in a row at home prior to that in what is now, goodness, what is it, 8 years? So yeah, it's different. But as I said, you know, the technology we have to hand today, we can really go live anywhere. It's just about times and different time zones. Even the weekend, I'm live to Denver, I believe it is. I think a whiskey fair there. So yeah, you've got to kind of make sure you're formatting your time, so you've got to maybe look at your time a bit more carefully and utilise that. But honest to goodness, never been busier. And actually, to be home in my own bed for more than 2 weeks in a row is quite a novelty. So I'll take that.
There's the Malt Society in Dubai is already saying, how can we book a session with Stewart? So if you want, I can put some links on my Instagram on how to maybe get hold of Stewart and book him for something, because I think he's quite happy doing these kind of things. And
goodness, reach out, guys. Even though we might be kind of loosening up and maybe starting to get back to a degree of normality, I'll not be traveling for a long time. So the more I can do online with anybody around the world, bring it on.
Yeah. So Ganesh, if you just watch out on the social media between me and Stewart, we'll put something up there for you how to get in touch. But so you have all these tastings and sessions across the world. Do you have like an alarm system on your mobile phone that you just go 6 AM, 7 AM, Because I don't know how I would keep track.
No, luckily the calendar we've got, the Google app calendar, keeps me under control. If it wasn't for that, I would be all over the place. So yeah, my phone's constantly beeping and reminding me of things.
So today was Australia, and where else have you been today?
In Australia, and funnily enough, a bit of Scotland. So we had our PR training as well with our PR team. So that was with girls that are as far as north as Tame, and even Robertson down in Edinburgh. So again, that was a nice meeting with that team, and a few new faces there. That was particularly BenRiach this afternoon. So yeah, it's all good.
Brilliant. So I mean, it's just you are the global brand ambassador. So normally you would be flying all over the world. Predominantly, I think America. You've been spending more time in America lately, but that changes, I suppose, as the brand grows and where you have to focus your efforts. But I think. How many, just to understand, how many days would you be traveling in a year? Are we talking 300 days, 100 days?
Yeah, well, I think the height of my craziness was probably back in maybe 2016, 17, where I did count only about 28 days in my own house.
Yeah.
Now, that wasn't global traveling. That was including, again, I stayed at Edinburgh at the time, Ratho anyway. That included traveling on a trip, coming back home, change of case, up to distilleries, hosting up here, and then back to Edinburgh, and then out the road again. So again, as much as it wasn't global travelling, it was still out of my own house, and it was still 28 days.
It's a tough job. What I'm trying to get to is, like, it sounds so glamorous. Oh my goodness, sight you see, the airplanes you're on, the restaurants, but oh my goodness, you're just not able to, like, you're not at home much. It's not that glamorous when you sort of get down to the nitty-gritties, is it? However, recently, I mean, is it a year or two now? You've been back in Elgin. You've moved to Elgin, where you're much closer to the distilleries.
Yeah, it made perfect sense. You know, when I was staying we had the bottom plant in Newbridge, as you know there. Again, you're in there often yourself.
Yeah.
You know, that was good at the time, but when we found I was hosting more up here, you know, with people coming through, and that was not just that was internal trainings as well, and the new teams we had globally under Forman that were coming to visit. It made perfect sense to be up here now. And also the home places, you know, the home places that we have now have really been, I've done some great design work in there, you know, pulling more people into the distilleries. And I'm here to be, I will say, used and abused in whatever capacity.
I know, you're the ideal employee. You just, a tasting at 9 AM, no bother, I'll do that, no problem. Yeah. Anything you have to do.
I think that's the thing as well, Jet. You know, you do have to be built for this role. With maybe rose-tinted glasses, it might look like this fantastic lifestyle, which is a lifestyle actually more than a job. It's never a 9 to 5. You have to be built for that lifestyle because some people can do it, some people can't. And you've got to be, I think, a certain type of person that can do it.
Yeah, I completely know what you're saying. Well, we met when you were actually on your first trip, I think, away. We wasn't Japan, was it? No, where were we?
Well, do you know what? Actually, I was thinking back. It was actually before that. Even when I was in production, one of the very first events I ever went to in Whisky Fringe, Edinburgh.
Oh, Whisky Fringe! Oh!
Back in the day, it was the old crew, you know, like yourself. Yeah. Okay, Mark was still thinking about. Mark was there.
Yeah.
George Grant, Aoife, remember Aoife?
Yes, Aoife. Oh my! Those are the days. They were like, so we're talking 9 years ago then. Yeah, well, that's probably where we met. That's probably about right. And then our paths crossed quite a lot. I mean, okay, there is a reason why we had more drinks in Scotland, because we have ended up working in the same office for a bit. But up until recently, we'd never had a drink in Scotland. It was always in somewhere nice, exotic pub somewhere in Europe or in, I don't know, Japan, Taiwan, I don't know, where, all over. So it is great. Love meeting all you through my travels, and that's how I'm sitting here chatting with you. I find, so your role is to educate, isn't it, really? Like, as a brand ambassador, you don't really, you don't have to pressurize sales, or you don't have to go meet your target, do this, blah, blah, you know, we need more accounts. You're basically going out, you're educating people. Is that how are you doing it?
100%. And it's something it's always been my avenue. Again, the sales guys do their job, I do my job, and even the consumer-based facings, I think in the last 3 years has been lesser because we've got so many more teams now to get to that single malt level of knowledge. And I've enjoyed that. And I think that's also the great thing about maybe having that.
Oh, is that my internet? That happened yesterday. I hope it's not. Is it mine or Stewart's? Let's hope he comes back. I'm not sure if you can all hear me or see me, but something's happened. And oh, I don't know if it was you that cut out there or it was me, but there was a little blip. And but you're back now.
Yeah, I'm just saying there, you know, as much as it's great getting face to face with the consumer, you know, whether it's festivals or masterclasses around the world, but actually I've taken great pleasure in the training capacity. You know, when you see somebody that has no knowledge of single malt category, then you've trained them, and then they're a bit scared at first because a lot of information to absorb and take in, and it's like, oh goodness, I'm never going to get this. Yeah. And then you see that confidence building, then all of a sudden they're rocking it. So I love seeing people grow. And do you know what it's about? It's about confidence as well, isn't it? It's like making sure you know that information to hand, that you can start then pull. It becomes automatic that you pull out these things. It does seem like a lot at first, but it does come quickly. That a button clicks. Yeah,
I think you're right. Like that, education definitely builds confidence, and the more you can help with that, the better your ambassadors and sales staff is going to get. You know, the more they know. But you're the ideal person because not only you're not some I don't know, glossy page 3 boy that's coming going, yeah, I can chat about whiskey. Well, you are that. However, you've actually worked in the distillery. That's unusual. Not many brand ambassadors can say they have been up at 3 a.m., 2 a.m., 1 a.m. pulling barley or, you know, carrying barley and putting yeast in. And you've done that. You're the real deal.
Yeah, I don't think there are many actually. But and again, that was my passion, was production as well. You know, even starting off in my whiskey journey. And yeah, I don't think there's a part of production that I haven't touched, you know, whether it was actually starting back into the north and then getting the opportunity actually to then go to BenRiach, and you know that really opened my eyes to, I suppose, even cask maturation, for example, you know, the work we were doing with different cask styles, etc. But also, I like getting my hands dirty, even to this day. I was very much more in production. Like back in the day, it wasn't just about making spirit. It wasn't about just trying to produce the best spirit possible through distillation process. I just loved the machinery. You know, give me nuts and bolts, give me boilers, give me Ogden pumps and steam traps. You know, that's actually the part I liked about the distillery. I used to look forward to the shutdown when we could rip stuff apart, you know.
So you're really like an engineer, aren't you? You're really like into that. You're definitely a petrol head. We'll talk more about your interests later, but you are into the how things works and making it work.
That's when I left school. Again, I'd always that kind of, there's always a mechanical background in our family because my father, grandfather, great-grandfather, they owned garages in Dumbarton. So even the house was almost the junkyard of the garage. So even as a nipper, you know, 3-4 years old, I was in a bounced oil and engines and what have you.
Well, let's do it this way. I was going to go from Forman back the way, but let's start from the beginning, Stewart, because these are bits, I know a lot about you and your family, but there's bits I don't know, so I'm just going to dwell in. So you were born in Dumbarton?
Yeah, and funnily, I don't often talk about it. Not that I'm embarrassed about Dumbarton, because it is a lovely place, maybe. Yeah. But I normally just talk about Tobermory or reference Tobermory, because that's where I spent most of my life, I suppose. Childhood and into adulthood. But yeah, born in Dumbarton, or actually stone's throw from a Lomond distillery in Ballach, actually. And then Dumbarton was my hometown. We grew up there. Roughly, it's 1971 I was born. And we moved to Mull in 79, but I have very great memories of Dumbarton. And anybody that knows Dumbarton will know, I suppose back then it was one of the biggest whiskey towns in Scotland. So even then, whiskey was around me, you know.
Really was, but even now they employ a lot of people in the industry, the whiskey industry, and the spirits in total. Like it's a big employer in that part of Scotland.
Yeah, huge. And again, even growing up, not they weren't family blood uncles, but my father's best friend, this guy, particularly John Thackeray, he was an engineer with Allied, and I remember even as I was trying to think what age I would have been. I don't think I could have been even 4 or 5 years old, being in the big red brick distillery building in Dumbarton, which sat right in the middle of the town, you know, which it was always there. And I remember vividly as well that kind of, it was almost that kind of cathedral-like feeling, you know, big square block, and it was all up there, and it had that impression on me that I still remember to this day. So yeah, the whiskey was always there.
Love that. I mean, so when you were saying your dad and your uncles and your grandfather was mechanics, it was more car engines and that type of mechanical engineering. And
if you bought a car in Dumbarton for the last 100 years to 1980, you probably bought it from my grandparents' family.
It's funny because your surname Buchanan, it to me has got like that motor engine type of annotation to it. So yes, I can see Buchanan's Garage, Buchanan and Sons.
Yeah, still bits of it there. And also, you know, it was a great place to grow up. It really was. And also, I remember another thing about Dumbarton. You know, again, you've got Little Mill there. There's not much of Little Mill left. Obviously, there's a wall, I think. But back then, you were still
literally.
Yeah. And also, another great memory. Now, I don't know why we would pass this, but I do remember my father must have had a friend who worked maybe in the warehousing, and the old Dunwich warehouses and bowling. They used to have geese that were the alarm systems for the warehouse. And I remember actually over the fence with these geese.
They would have been the best guard dogs.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard of that before, but that's what they used. You know, there was the old Dunwich warehousing, and there was gates all the way around, and all these geese just roamed around the warehouses, and that was the alarm.
That's funny. I had no idea. My grandmother kept geese, and I was petrified. I like when we visited, I wouldn't go out of the car because they're vicious. So they're perfect for guarding whiskey. Why do we not do that these days? That's I mean that's that makes environmental sense. And you can fertilize the barley with their poop.
Perfect. And so that was actually maybe the Dumbarton thing, but even later on, you know, that was my father's side, but my mother's side of the family were up near maybe the West Sea, slightly east of Lothlomond, the Harn, Drimnin area, farming family. And even now, I cannot pass a distillery, or if you throw draft at any distillery, when I smell the draft, it takes me back to being like 5 years old.
Memory.
A clip round the ear for playing in the draft pit at the farm, you know. So these are all there, you know.
Yeah, you were steeped into it, weren't you? That's just memory. It brings it back. That's the thing with the sense of nosing, though, or your sense of smell is very closely connected to your memory. I'm sure you know that, and it's one of these things that like I do as well. I relate to a memory that I've had. But that's funny that you've been involved in, like, since you were so little, you've actually had distilling.
Funnily enough, actually, only until unfortunately he passed away, my uncle Alec Mackenzie, he actually drove haulage trucks taking draft from Auchentoshan, from Glendoyne, Lothlomond itself.
Yeah.
So if MD viewing here today has gone to any of these 3 distilleries and seen an orange truck outside, that was my uncle's.
There you go. So he picked up the draft from Auchie. Excellent. Yeah. I mean, so how many siblings are you, by the way? And where are you in the sibling range?
I'm middle to older. So I've got an older brother, Sandy. He's still in Tobermory. A younger sister, Maggie. She's the youngest. She's also still in Tobermory. And Gordon, who's just below me also. And he's the wildlife dude. So he's also traveling the world in a slightly different capacity than I am.
Yeah. Strangely enough, Stewart is not the most famous Buchanan in your family. Well, maybe you are to us because we're all in the whiskey thing. But Gordon does his wildlife nature programs. You mentioned earlier about Gordon. Actually, are you and him doing an Instagram live thing? That sounds amazing. Talking about Glenglassaugh.
Yeah, we've done some Instagrams recently over the last week, say myself and Douglas Cook, our colleague, and also Rachel Barry, our master blender. And that was maybe focusing on BenRiach and Glendronach. And now we thought we'd give Glenglassaugh some love. And we thought, well, how do we approach Glenglassaugh? And I thought, let's go on a different tangent almost. So, you know, Glenglassaugh's got this very unique personality. You know, we always say it's kind of shaped by the land and the sea.
Yeah.
So I said offhand to Callum down in London, I said, well, I could see if we can get Gordy in, because, you know, I think there's that kind of wildlife nature of Glenglassaugh. And again, I suppose myself and Gordy being shaped by the land and the sea, be brought up in Mull. So again, we're just going to chat stuff and a little bit of whiskey. It's going to be good fun.
That sounds great. So when are you doing that? Next week?
It's the 10th. It's actually the week after. Gordy's got some film to do for Spring Watch, and then we'll do it after. So
the 10th of June. Oh, great. No, I have enjoyed listening to you and Douglas Cook, and also Rachel Barry and they are also doing the Instagram live, chatting about flavors and BenRiach and Glendronach. It's been great. I think you've really embraced this lockdown. I mean, what are you supposed to do? This is something that nobody has lived through this before. It hits industry pretty bad. Bars closed down, hotels closed down, and you couldn't travel. So luckily we had the technology at hand, and you embraced it. I've just actually been watching Kilchoman, because it's the Kilchoman Day at the Biz Isle today. And that was lovely. I loved the chat between George and Peter, because they're the oldest and the youngest, and we banter. And I also love watching James and Anthony, because they've obviously been living together throughout the lockdown. So there is that sort of, you know, tension.
What a great family, though. And it just shows, again, even just mentioning that, that's the strangest thing about even this industry. Whiskies compete on the shelf space, but we never compete out in the market together. It is truly a community of just friends enjoying their jobs. It's very strange, in fact.
It is. It's a very odd industry in that aspect, because the competitiveness doesn't really come through at all, does it? More whiskey, the better for everyone. But obviously, drink responsibly. But you were born in Dumbarton, but you mentioned Tobermory because you moved to Mull. You moved to Mull.
Yeah, and we'd always kind of gone on holiday there, because my grandparents did have a holiday home there, and we would go on holiday in the summers. And again, it's sometimes a twist of fate that you think is a bizarre circumstance. But we were on holiday in Mull in 1979. Again, I can't remember what it was, in primary 4, primary 3 or whatever, so whatever age you are there. Yeah. And we went back to Dumbarton. And I remember in the Morris Traveller, if you're familiar with an old Morris Traveller,
yes,
we were parked outside, and my mother said, I'm going to go up and lock the door, open the doors, and then we were all 4 kids, at young age. Then we got this. My mother came back down and goes, oh, we're just going to go to our auntie's. I thought, what do you mean? Well, the way our house got broken into. So my mother turned round the Morris Traveller and went back to Mull, and we never left. 1979.
Is that how it was? I had no idea. I'm a mother. I bet you in the back of her head, she's kept thinking about Mull being a better place for the kids to grow up. And she just, that was it. That's broke her back. Let's go back to Mull.
Exactly that. And I sometimes think if I could shake the hand of the guy who broke into the house, I would. Because if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be here sitting to you, talking to you today.
Well, so that really made you then. But yourself and Gordon and your siblings are still there. But basically, you and Gordon left because you're now globetrotters. But your sister and your brother are still on Mull. It's such a beautiful part of Scotland. The Bay of Calgary, which I think I've talked to you about before, because me and my partner, I call him my husband because he's my fake husband, so we call him husband. And our oldest son went over there when he was 1 and spent about 4 days in Mull. And it's it's easily accessed from Oban, so it doesn't take that much planning to go to, which is handy with a young son. But it's beautiful. Calgary Bay is just stunning.
It really is. Again, there's such a diversity north to south, and the more mountainous, I suppose, of the islands. It is beautiful. And again, probably one of the most accessible. Actually, just when I mentioned my sister there, I got a care package of some of our lovely tablets, so I'm enjoying her tablet along with this dram. So pop that bit in there.
Nice.
But yeah, growing up in Mull, I suppose that it does affect you being in the sea. You're out to sea all the time in boats. You're outside all the time. And I think even now, I very seldom sit inside. I'm outdoors. I'm getting dirty, even at 49.
I know. It is that outdoor. You've got that ruggedness. You're outdoorsy, aren't you? You really embrace the weather, I always think of Mull as a sailing island as well, partly because I lived in Campbelltown for quite a while, and my husband did a lot of sailing, and he would sail up around there, and it's just beautiful part of Scotland, and it's got a wee distillery, which I believe was that your first whiskey distilling job?
It was. I actually, when I left school, I should tell you when my first whiskey contact was. And again, I'd forgotten about this actually. With my first whiskey presentation when I was 13 years old.
13?
Yep. Because I don't know in Sweden, but anybody who was in school in Scotland, in our English class, we had this kind of project that you could do through the year outside your normal classwork, and you had to present it, at the end of the year.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It would be for maybe first year, and then my second year one was on whiskey at the age of, I think it was 13 or 14, must have been 14 possibly. But I remember, back then it was before the internet, so I remember even then going through the libraries and trying to pull up whiskey information. That's probably what 83, 84. So again, it was before even the whiskey climate we're in today. So at the end of the year, I had to go up and talk about whiskey at 14 years old in front of the whole English class. So that was my first, I suppose, masterclass, let's call it, without sampling.
If you found that presentation now, that would be so fun. You could use that in your educational material.
And then I did go away for a little bit. I used to work in overhead lines, so I did go to work with the hydro board, and then quickly moved into a subcontracting company, and I used to travel all up and down the west coast of Scotland building power lines.
You know Campbelltown quite well because of that. Then they rolled up and down the A82, A83.
Newsdale I lived in for a long time, not far from where you were in Macrahanish.
Yeah.
But that was a great time, and that's also that was a ruggedness, because I was out in the mountains of Skye, digging holes, building poles, running cables. Again, that was a real outdoors thing that through all weather.
So what were you running? Is it BT cables, or was it just? It wasn't BT.
Power lines, high voltage power. Yeah.
And you did that on your bike? Did you just drive around on your bike?
I used to leave Tobermory, drive to Skye for the week, and we lived in caravans and all over up in the wilderness of Skye, and like down in Buchanan, all over Scotland actually. And it was Wild West. I was like 18, 19 at the time. But one contract finished, and it was winter, and I thought, well, I could have gone to Ireland and done cable work. I thought, no, I'm not going to dig a hole in Ireland in the middle of winter. So I did take some time off, and for a short time actually worked in a shop called Brown's in Tobermory, which was like a wine and spirits ironmonger store. You could be sitting in a gallon 1 minute, then putting a axe head on a shaft the next. It was
those shops are the best.
So there was a bit of whiskey interaction there, I suppose, and I did learn a lot about wines also and whiskies at that point, as far as in glass. And then an opportunity came up to start working to Tobermory, and I jumped at it. And
so was that something advertised somewhere, or did you just knock on a door?
Well, again, small community Tobermory, and I did know Alan McConaughey, as you know him. But there was let's call it a slight mishap with some valves. And it was another one of these kind of flips of fate where, on a change of a shift, one shiftman left a valve to the drain, and then another shiftman went to pump the wash back to the wash charger and maybe forgot about the valve. So something happened, let's say, and I managed to then get a job in the distillery.
So sorry for that guy, but sure.
I do buy him a dram now and again when I see him. But again, it's just great. And back then as well, it was a stillman I started as. But again, it was
you went straight into stillman?
Yeah, straight to still.
And was that because Alan knew that you had an idea of engineering and engines?
Well, the mashman was the layer guy, Stewie, and it was good. But I think that was also, might have been part of it, because a lot of people forget maybe distillation, you're not busy all the time. There's only a couple of hours window when you're actually doing something, whether it's actually coming in, bringing the still in, or the cut. Now you have to keep yourself busy with that. And again, that was the ideal opportunity, and that was like into pumps, welding, or not. I loved even thinking, if there was a water pump leaking, and you had to go and change the valve before the next water was starting to pump or something like that. It was like being a Formula One pit stop.
Yes, I know, because you're limited. That's the time.
And these are great things. Or spending the whole summer in the back of the boiler, I've got lots of scars to prove it as well. So it's not been plain sailing. I don't have any tattoos, but I've got a lot of whiskey scars on me from...
Oh, do you?
Oh, God, yeah.
I know a few bakers and they have all the baking scars, but I suppose as a distiller in an old distillery, because back then it was pretty old. It's had a little facelift. When I was there, Tobermory was looking very pretty and it was very nice, and now it's been updated, hasn't it? But back in the day,
yeah, and I think that's a great thing. You know, again, modernisation and you know things move on, but you know back then when you were dealing with like steam traps and Ogden pumps, which is basically that's the kind of machinery that pumps your steam condensate back to your boiler head, for example.
yeah,
That's the thing that make noises in a distillery. You know, you go into an old distillery, maybe Springbank's the same, or Glenglassaugh or Kilkerran. You know, when you hear that clackety clack and the scoosh of the steams, and that for me is the soul of a distillery. You know, and again, that's the beating heart. I think that again to get involved in.
this is before TikTok or any of those like TikTok dancing or whatever. I remember being on a night shift in Kilkerran with some of the boys, and we did a dance to the noises that the distillery made, because they were so regular, the noises, and the boys knew exactly, boys and girls, because there was a couple of girls there as well. They knew exactly what noise meant what, and that's a skill that you could, I suppose, you could lose it because it's now computerized, but. I was speaking to Laura Heamy yesterday, and she's very much a modern distiller, but she understands the concept of, you know, computers and stuff, obviously, but she's very much into the old-fashioned way of making things as well. So it's important that distillers know both.
Exactly, and it was every sense you're using. You know, you're using your eyes, you can smell the different things that are happening, but again, your ears are very important. If a pump's straining, or this is stopping, so yeah, your ears are as much as important as anything else when it comes to production.
Oh, so great! So, I mean, what year are we now at? So, how old were you when you started at Tobermory?
23 or something, 22, 23 or something.
Good. So that was a first job in distilling, and then you were there.
I thought actually I was going to wait till the spring and just go back, because that was Christmas time, and I thought I was going to go back to my overhead power lines job when the weather got better.
Oh, I see. So it wasn't like a permanent position. It was.
I still thought I would go back to the lines because I did love that job, and I've got great fond memories of that. But again, maybe after spending a winter cosy by the stills, and it takes a lot to drag you out of a distillery to go back up a hill and sky again.
I'm just thinking as well, Alan. What was Alan like back then? I mean, I've only known him since like.
Oh, he hasn't changed. Jokes are still as bad back then as they are now. But again, I've got a lot to be thankful for Alan and Billy. I suppose that's where I first met Billy as well, you know, because that was Burn Stewart. Billy was the production director. So that's where I suppose Billy's relationship and myself's relationship came together there. And again, 2004, having the opportunity to leave Tobermory and then go and start at BenRiach was an awesome opportunity to take, and I grabbed it.
So is that what you were in? Sorry to interrupt that. You were with Tobermory then for how long were you there?
10, 12 years, whatever, I think, possibly.
Oh, right. And then Billy said, well, I've bought this distillery, BenRiach. I need somebody.
Yeah, it was a bit undercover at the start. So myself, Alan kind of whisper in my ear, you know, do you fancy coming? Do you fancy coming? You know, and I was like, I don't know. And I did take a couple of recce trips up and looked at the place.
Yeah.
And I thought, tell you the honesty, I was like, but you know, got to remember, BenRiach was mothballed for 2 years.
Honestly, look, listen, Stewart, the first time you went up to BenRiach and you looked at it, what was your honest thought? Like,
I went, oh my God, what have I done?
I was wondering that, because it's just,
because I'd left this lovely harbour town of Tobermory, and again, the wee distillery quaint down in the harbour there. BenRiach had been mothballed for 2 years. There was like tumbleweed going through the lanes, you know, and it was painted the most dreadful colour of bright orange and lime green. So I goes, oh, what have I done here? But again, that was April, May 2004. The first 6 months were just stripping it down. Again, myself and a great old engineer called Jock Leslie. Learned a lot from him as well. Stripped it down, built it back up, painted every wall, every tank, and then we started the production possibly in about September. Obviously.
So that was mothballed. Was everything there? Did they have the complete set?
Yeah. Everything was there, and they ran water through the system, but they hadn't actually done any distillation through the system, so it was all holding tight. But there was
why did they run water? Was it just to make sure they knew it was working?
Yeah, just to keep everything fresh. But there was a lot of stuff we still had to do. Actually, we probably got about 10 tons of redundant steelwork, stuff that had just been outdated, and we ripped it all out. So Yeah, we did get a good facelift and just get it down to basics again. Very much a back to basics distillery, BenRiach.
And so, I mean, we're talking about the distillery now, but then warehouse-wise, they have lots of buildings, but the buildings weren't in great shape, I can only imagine. Was there a lot of work done there as well?
And luckily they were still good because they still had casks in situ, although the distillery was, so they were very well maintained actually. So, but that was a great thing also. As much as it was 6 months, maybe getting the distillery fit for purpose, we acquired 25,000 barrels of casks.
So is that right? I knew there was some whiskey, which is obviously what attracted Billy to the distillery, but I didn't realize there was that many. That's a good deal.
We went back to 66.
Wow.
And a lot of that time was actually going in and doing warehouse sampling again. We used to sit with samples on end, just going through these casks, you know.
Oh, I'm sorry for you. That's a horrible job. Sample. So yourself and Billy were sitting there, and did he have his Bible, and you were just like writing down? That's good. Yeah,
and the other thing was, I think we didn't know exactly what was in the warehouses. To be honest, I think we knew there was maybe some peat there, but not to the extent there was. So we had to find, because it was never really noted.
Sorry to interrupt. You didn't actually know that what whiskey. You knew what the cask. Did you not have any log on the cask?
We knew what was there, but not exactly. Some, you know, if you think about back in the day, whether it was the 70s or 80s, you know, if you were taking your cask details and putting in the system, some of that system information wasn't maybe there. And it did take a lot of time analysing exactly what we had, what was peated, what was classic, and then even discovering the triple, which I don't think we even knew was there until we found this funny code number, you know. So even to discover that was quite an eye-opener. So yeah, it was, again, that was really exciting.
Oh, that would have been such a fun job, I can imagine. And then you were in production then with BenRiach for a good 6-8 years, and then well, even when you were in production, I know you went on a few trips because we met, but then the opportunity came along to be an ambassador, or
even before that, a little bit. Alan had, when we bought Glendronach in 2008, Alan had kind of decamped from BenRiach, gone to Glendronach, and I took over the hot seat of BenRiach, I suppose, management-wise, just day-to-day running. And at the same time, I was doing more and more fairs. So once Alan got Glendronach up and running and he found he could then manage all 3 sites, Billy said to me, or Alistair Walker, actually, Billy's son, he said, "Don't you fancy just going out and doing it full time?" I said, "No problem, bring it to me." And also I remember when I used to do these things, I'd never, even now, I think I've only ever been to 5 whiskey tastings in my life. One of them was Hans Offinger's Whiskey and Blues.
Yeah.
But I've not.
I sent him samples for that book. That's funny. Yeah. Okay.
But so I'd been very unaware of what other people did.
Yeah. You must have met a lot of people coming to the distillery though. Like you would have been there working. You see all these like Swedes and Dutch people and Germans, and because even in the like I can remember my dad and his friends. My dad is Swedish and his friends they would come in the late 90s to Scotland just to go to whiskey trips. I mean now you get much. Not during lockdown, but normally now you get a lot more whiskey tourism. But it did start in the late 90s, didn't it? You must have.
Definitely. Yeah, and even starting up BenRiach, I think BenRiach started at a time where things were just starting to get a little bit different. You know, Arran had also obviously been built a bit earlier. Bruichladdich were back up and doing some great work. BenRiach then came along and did some other stuff. There was a lot of things happening in that kind of early 2000 period.
Oh, certainly.
It was very different, I think, and Billy's approach was also. So we did get a lot of writers up, and again, it was great hosting people there. But that was the thing, when I first went out the road, I think, how do I do a masterclass? I've never been to one, I've never seen one done. So in my head, what I said to myself was, right, I'm going to go into this room with whatever it was, 30, 40, 50 people, and I'm going to kid on them back in the distillery again. I'm going to do this as if I'm walking through the distillery. So it would be barley, mashing, milling, mashing, dram, fermentation, dram, distillation, dram, warehousing, dram. So I kind of structured it in my head as if I was doing the...
Oh, wow.
You know?
Yeah. You follow the production way. Yeah.
And I think, I don't know back then, you know, if that was, I don't know how long that was ago, maybe 12 years ago now when I first started doing that. But back then, I don't know if there was many other people talking about production as such. And it was very much a big part of my presentations, I suppose, is looking more in depth.
That's where your strengths are. That you are the engineer. You made the whiskey. You would have been actually drinking whiskey that you made. Now that to me would have been fantastic. Having that, that relationship to the liquid you're pouring to people in Switzerland or Australia or wherever you are. You'd be like, oh, actually, that's one of the casks I put down. And so I worked with Forman for 18 months, about 2 years ago now, and I was looking after this single cask scheme, Glendronach, BenRiach, and Glenglassaugh. And I mean, you probably don't know this, but in my head I would go, oh, that was when Stewart was there, or that would have been Stewart's cask. And in my head I just thought, and I was proud. It gives you an extra relationship to that whiskey.
It really does, and there's casks I remember, back then as well. I was actually in the warehouses. I did leave production for a little bit once it was all up and running, and spent about 3 years just in warehouse, charge man, stroke manager, whatever you would call it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember, at that point I lived at Longmorn, which is just up the road from BenRiach, 500 metres. And I remember even then, if there was stuff that needed done, and Billy was quite a hard taskmaster, so just do it. Yeah. I would see myself leaving my house, walking to the distillery, doing re-racks until 1 a.m. in the morning, just to myself, getting these in. The boys would then come in and stow them in the morning, just to get through some of that re-rack workload. And again, when you look today, any of the finishing work, the single casks, some of these were put to barrel by myself at midnight.
Yeah.
So
I know. That's unique to you, and that's unique to your relationship with the whiskey, because as much as you can work for a company, you can be a brand ambassador for a company, and you can love that company because of its history or whatever, but when you're actually part of the history, part of the product, that gives it that different dimension. I think that people absolutely love going to your tastings. They love knowing you. I was talking to Shilton. He's also not a big character when it comes to meeting people out at these festivals in Sweden and Switzerland and America, everywhere we go. And you have like whiskey friends in every corner of the world. And I think it's because of the fact that you have that relationship with BenRiach, but also having worked with Alan for so long, you've obviously got a great grasp of Glendronach and Glenglassaugh. I have never been part of production at Glenglassaugh. I've only ever been involved in the single casks or whatever there, but I absolutely love that place. I think it's it's an ugly distillery, but oh my goodness, the whiskey is great and the views are fantastic, and I like the underdog a little bit. I think it's just that beautiful spirit that comes from it.
It's that hidden gem, and so unusual. I think it's one, I feel anyway, it's one of the most distinctive spirits. There's a funny thing that happens in a Glenglassaugh masterclass. People take a Glenglassaugh, particularly the revival, and they do that. They nose it, and they look at it, and they nose it again. And this eyebrow comes up. It's almost a quizzical Glenglassaugh eyebrow. It's like, what's this little thing here? Because it's so distinct in its own nature. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the next 5 years and seeing again where Glenglassaugh is going to go. And it's
every time I do a with Glenglassaugh, and I have the core range, Evolution, Revival, and Torfa. Torfa is the peaty one, and they're so different from each other, aren't they? They're like siblings that are completely opposite to each other. And people have never heard of Glenglassaugh before, and the story is very behind Glenglassaugh. It's so checkered. It's being loved and hated. It's like the ugly duckling, isn't it? It's just like, oh no, you're ugly, go that way, or you're not good enough, or you've got that's a foreign investor and that money, But this spirit has come to life as the most beautiful swan. In my opinion, I love it.
And that's not just in a present day thing. That goes back even to the earlier period when it reopened in the 60s. Again, I'm sure you're familiar with Ian Buxton. He was pivotal actually working with Glenglassaugh when Stewart Nickerson opened it up. And he wrote this fantastic book, a beautiful book on Glenglassaugh's history. And if you look back, even in the 80s, and that's just before it was mothballed, for this kind of second time, they couldn't tame the spirit. They were wanting to create a spirit there for blending. Mm-hmm. And any blender just found they couldn't work with it. It had too much of its own thing going on. And it was owned by Highland at the time, who also owned, as well, Edrington now still have Glenrothes. They even tried taking the water from Glenrothes and using it to produce Glenglassaugh. It didn't change it.
No.
They actually took the wash from Glenrothes and tried to even just distill it at Glenglassaugh. It still didn't change it. Then ultimately in 1977, they changed the still shapes. So again, it's always this unique character. They just could never tame it. Which again, maybe back then for a blender was a disadvantage because you wanted something quite easy and, a bulk blend product. Yeah. Where now it's actually a huge advantage because of its uniqueness. So, story.
Yeah, I'm passionate for Glenglassaugh. I love the stuff that's there already. I think it's fantastic, and I'm really, I think it's for £45 you can buy a bottle of whiskey that's absolutely stunning, and nobody would have heard of it. We've got a question. I think it's a question. Let's see, Whiskey Jar. What's cool to hear from Stewart before about the heavier water and the impact on the taste later for longer in maturation? Oh yes. When is Stewart, sorry, I'm reading on here now. Shilton has got a question. When is Stewart traveling to Goa? He's wanting you to join him in Goa.
That's not bad, because the first time I went to Goa was for I'm not a big party person for weddings, or for weddings, never had one of those either, for birthdays. But I went to Goa I bought a trip to Goa for my 40th birthday 10 years ago. About 3 years after that, so next year's the big 5-0, so I'll maybe treat myself to another trip to Goa for that. So see you there, Sheldon.
The big 5-0? No, you need to. Well, let's have a big party in your garden in Elgin. Okay, you can go to Goa, but we're also having a party in Elgin. Your house and garden. Deadly. It's fantastic. Got somebody here from Canada. I apologize because I'm just realizing that I was waiting for the questions to come to me, but I have to scroll it. So this is me being a bit old and rusty on the old Instagram. Oh, here we go. So from Dove Drammer, who's in Canada, I toured with Stewart in 2007, 2009. He was a great tour guide. And then I bought BenRiach 66, 40-year-old for my birthday. Cheers, Stewart. So that's somebody that's loved spending time with you and the whiskey. Do you know what I love with BenRiach? And I remember when I used to, because I do brand activity with that as well. And you have the range in front of you, and I mean it's getting well anyway. You would have the range in front of you, and you would go. But this is the experimental side of Speyside. They've been peating barley for like over 30 years. Like nobody in Speyside was peating barley back then. Why would they? Like there was no need for it. Well, exactly. Now I've got nothing more
just now. So 21-year-old Temporis, and yeah, you don't get anything like this. There are some obviously now in the last 10, 15, 17 years, but nothing. And that's why we were shocked ourselves back in 2004, to find that peated stock going right back to 72, I believe, the earliest.
So what did you do then? Did you just go, oh, weird, and just ignore it? Or did you go, actually, this is really interesting. Maybe we should just keep an eye on it?
It was crazy.
Most people would have stuck it in a blend or something.
Yeah, and you got to remember, obviously, with time, you look at 1972, for example, or even there's casks out that even looking at up until Rachel took over, 76s, 78s, the peat at that point is so back. I mean, it's just this lovely little whisk, especially in the smaller barrels. Sometimes you've got to search for it. And that's even doing the sampling of it. Sometimes, am I getting peat here or not? Because at that age, and especially the barrels, smaller, it's such a gentle nuance. So these are exquisite. They really are.
Yeah, such a treasure. And I love that with BenRiach because as much I've tried a new make spirit. I'm lucky I have, and I think it's lovely. It's great. It's robust and it's got big broad shoulders. And I find that BenRiach were. Oh, I remember one time, and this is a trip we were both on in Oslo. You were standing next to me, and I was there on behalf of Springbank and Kilkerran, and I wasn't meant to be there, but somebody had an accident, so I was there. So we were standing next to each other, and you had to pop to the loo, and you said, "Look after my. Did you look after my range for me?" And I looked over, and I'm a whiskey geek, so don't get me wrong. I was like, yeah, I've had BenRiach, and I looked over, and it was like looking at a rainbow that split in like 5 million different colors, because you did have all the different colors, didn't you? You went through that, which I really liked it. It made it look brilliant on the shelf. But it was like 17 different expressions where I was standing there with 3. It's like, how am I going to do this? So that was my first, and then I tried. You kindly let me try a lot of them, and as you do, because that's what we're there for. We're learning, and there wasn't a theme. Like I couldn't find. Oh, the one. That's what I loved about BenRiach was it was just kept me on my toes. There was something new in that bottle. Oh, and that's completely different. And this has something else. It was to do with your different distillation process. It was to do with the wood maturation. It was to do with the peat. And I thought that was great. And it was unusual because at that time, we're talking like 2010, whatever, distilleries were releasing products that were the reliable thing, like what's reliable and traditional to their distillery. Like Glendronach has always been a very traditional, elegant, beautiful distillery. Love their products, but very like you know what you're getting. Whereas BenRiach was always a bit like, here you go, this side, that side.
And it was, and I think that's maybe the spirit. Again, this is the new make spirit here, but it's the versatility of that. So even the spirit, you said, it's robust, almost syrupy nature, very fruit forward. So you can throw a lot of things at it, and it doesn't just get overwhelmed.
Because it's got that raw sugar stomach, yeah.
Yeah. But what Billy was very good at is pushing the boundaries as well. So you never played it safe. You didn't just say, I want a rum barrel, I'm going to leave it for 4 or 5 months. It's like, right, let's see how we can push it. And if you're doing a sampling program of any secondary maturation, you're always testing it. But sometimes it's too, you've got to be brave. Sometimes you might reach a point where you taste it, okay, that's good. But are you brave enough to leave it longer and go through a wall where it can turn out awesome? And that's what we did. We pushed these barrels because we knew the spirit could hold it. And that's why, again, today we've got finishes 9. Some people talk about finishes being a year or whatever. We've got finishes for 9, 10, 12 years in that second barrel, almost double maturations rather than finishes.
I admire that. Like, as long as I've been in industry, I've always thought you're pushing the boundaries, you're doing something completely different. And you know, when I then started working with you and I would go on shows, I'd be swearing because people would always come up and say, remember that one, remember this one, why do you still not do that one? Because that's the one question I bet you always get is like, remember we had that really nice 15-year-old whatever. Yes, Solstice is the one that always.
When you bring a new Solstice, that's awesome.
Always. And I'd be like, it was a one-off. What can you say? So, I mean,
we have to do a bit of a change.
Part of the DNA of BenRiach, it really is that wide variety.
And again, even now, you know, that's with Rachel joining us. She's able. What Billy's built is probably the biggest larder that any master blender could wish for.
Yes.
So again, Rachel bringing different. She's using, in some cases, some old recipes, but like the case of this one, entirely her own new recipe using the larder that Billy laid down.
Yeah.
In some spectacular combinations together.
I like that description. What a great description. The larder. So you go into the warehouse, probably number 13, the famous number 13, and you can pick and mix. Because I'm big into my pick and mix sweeties, and you can just pick and mix and make your own like whatever recipe up. Well, that's Rachel's job. I'm just being her for a minute there. But no, I think absolutely loved it. I love it, the history behind BenRiach and how it's got its beautiful whiskies. I'm a big fan. And Glendronach, we mentioned Glendronach being the elegant. I always describe Glendronach as very elegant and reliable and robust, and you always knew what you were getting with Glendronach, and you still do. It's that big sherry influence and a very fantastic quality of casks that you use, and that's what people love. That's what's selling. That's the round the world ticket. You know, these are qualities that people are looking for around the world. BenRiach, wacky for people like us and whatever. Glenglassaugh is just finding its feet out there. But Glendronach is the elegant lady in your group, I suppose. Yeah,
and again, it fits very well into the terroir, the location of the distillery, because you know yourself, you go to the Glendronach and you're sitting in the valley, Forg. Terroir's a funny thing with whiskey, is it relevant or not? But I think when you taste Glendronach, you're tasting that gutsiness of a big Highlander. You know, you're in that slightly colder area of Scotland. It's very agricultural, castles and cows and Highland cows and sheep. You know, there's an element of that landscape that comes into the Glendronach. So again, if you ain't broke, why fix it? And we're lucky again, buying this distillery back in 2008, that we did manage to get the stock back to 1960 this time. I know personally people in BenRiach who are kicking themselves up the bum that they ever actually let us buy that.
Just, I mean, it's not the one. I mean, I'm on a budget. I have kids. Hey, Scott, I'm on a budget. Tomatic Scott, I should say. I should clarify. So the 18-year-old is not one I can always buy. But while I was working with you guys, I bought a couple of bottles, and I've got one behind me. That's my last one. I absolutely love it. When I do tastings, it never fails. I know that people try that whiskey, and their face. They almost go into some kind of zone, or because it's just beautiful liquid. It's such a nice whiskey. I prefer that one to the 21 personally, but the 21 is because it's got a bit more of an edgier sort of coffee note to it. Yeah. And hey, Gordon, and Joachim, hey. Yes, and that's also Joachim's favorite. So this Joachim is from my home village in Sweden, and he loves this whiskey. He's the biggest fan of that.
Yeah. When I taste the 18, you know, it takes me back in time. It's a very much, you know, it's like whiskey, how whiskey used to be back in the day. It's got that old school nature to it. Again, also everything's there. It's powerful. It's rich. The spices, the darkness in it. It is like a whiskey of old, which again we'll maintain for the future as well.
Yeah, and that's the beauty. It's set up to continue, isn't it? That quality will always be there. It's continuing with Glendronach. You know what you have. I loved as being part of the staff then, when you went up to Glendronach, you could actually stay at the distillery in that house. Oh, and you once cooked me a really nice meal. I think you actually were cooking a meal for yourself. And yourself and Craig Johnson, who used to work with us, was there. And I was driving up from Edinburgh, and I arrived at a bit of a state. And instead of just sitting down and eating the food that you cooked for yourself, you went, "Here, do you want some food?" And I love you for that. That's the kind of person you are, Stewart. You're so unselfish.
Yeah, but again, it's funny because even thinking about your role, your job description. You know, I've cooked breakfast for 15 guests from Asia. You know,
yeah, I remember being in the kitchen cooking. I know. Oh, we've had some great times. Gordon is commenting. He's saying quite a shirt tonight. I've got you down. So have you got Gordon Dundas is saying quite a shirt. It's nice. Well, at least he's wearing a shirt. When I spoke to Stewart earlier, he wasn't wearing one, and that would have been a different show. But it's a great shirt. It goes lovely with your eyes.
And funnily enough, I only put it on because I was taking my washing off my dryer, and it's I won't show you my clothes that are in this corner, but it was the first one that came off the top of the pile. So that's the funny thing about lockdown. I've worn the same kind of 3 things over the last 9 weeks. I just keep going into the wash machine, back out, dry, and on again.
I'm the same, and I'm loving this hot weather because my kids don't even need to wear any clothes. They just go naked. And the whole sort of, I obviously don't have to worry about makeup, but makeup is not something I wear because why would I? I don't need to go out of the house. But now when I'm doing this, I try and put a little bit on, and it's really hard. It's like I'm like trying to paint a face. And we were talking about haircuts earlier. Yourself and Andy Bell from Aaron shaved your head, didn't you, earlier on in lockdown? But it's growing back.
It has. What's left of it, and honestly, there wasn't a stick. There was nothing in my head for about 3 weeks, and it was again. And I had to do. Funny thing, I forgot that I would have to do online tastings with people for work. I was like, oh God, why did I do that? So it was. I placed a cap on for about 4 weeks of lockdown until some of it grew back again. But yeah,
it's odd times. People do odd things, and I mean, anything to survive.
I think you always laughed at me when I said. And it's just a thing about traveling as well. I think I said I could write a book on haircuts around the world. Because almost I would go to a place, oh God, I need a haircut. Whether it's anywhere across the world, going for trying to translate what you want in a haircut. So I'm lucky so far that things have coped okay with that.
So I'm sitting here looking, I've got only 16 seconds left to chat with you according to Instagram, because they only let you have an hour. Yeah. So I reckon we will say thank you so much, Stewart, for joining me tonight. And yes, so I'm so sorry about that. That was my fault. I had no idea we'd been speaking for that long. I enjoyed chatting. Oh, and you've even got a clock behind you.
But the funny thing is, I've been looking this in reverse, obviously, with the mirror, but I forgot this clock is about 5 minutes slow. So I was still looking at it to be 5 past, actually. That's what put me wrong a little bit.
I was trying to avoid. I mean, I'm obviously not a professional. I've been trying to avoid going over the hour. I thought I would do half an hour with people. With Mark Watt, I did 90 minutes, and nobody's ever going to watch that. But there's so much to chat about, and I wanted just to get a chance to say thank you properly to you, Stewart, because of your busy schedule. Even though we're in lockdown, you're managing to do quite a lot of work.
Yeah, but again, it's good fun. It's always good fun. It's not a job, as I say.
Yeah. I'm just a bit. But that corner you're sitting in there, it's got some amazing whiskey, doesn't it? You've got some nice American bourbon, and
yeah,
I remember seeing some good Glendronach and BenRiach in there.
Hold on a wee second.
There's a few questions I haven't asked. Do you know what? If you don't mind, I'll ask you a few more questions.
Check. This is my kitchen at the moment,
Oh.
so hence. If you look at I don't know if you can see that really.
Are they all the single cats, the BenRiachs that are sitting there? Nice.
There's whiskey everywhere.
I mean, who's your interior designer? We need to speak. That whiskey. Oh, I love it. It's like
I don't know, my kitchen. But yeah, no, I think every part of my house, every corner's almost got a different setting. So I've got my BenRiach corner, my Glendronach corner. This is my kind of me chill out corner. Luckily, I had a lot of whiskey before the lockdown. You know, I had a lot of chain stuff, deconstructions, and single cask. So I've not been stuck for whiskey through that way.
Just there's something that's happened to your microphone, but it could just have been like when you were walking around. Is the microphone covered up? Do you know?
Maybe.
No, it's better.
Yeah. Is that better? Yes.
So I have a very serious question from Angus MacArthur. Can Stewart open an ice bar in Elgin?
Remember that?
We went to the ice.
I think I must be the only guy that's been in an ice bar with a kilt on. Remember?
Yes. And that's why I'm giggling. We went to We went to Oslo to do the festival that I was mentioned earlier, and we went out that night and we went to the ice bar, and Stewart, being a true Scot, wore his kilt, but the ice bar is covered in ice, and we're kneeling down for the photograph. Oh, anyway, you're brave man.
I was in Jekyll's actually last year, and I was thinking about Angus when I went down to their bar. So I remember Angus was enjoying himself with your brother, I think, while we were working at the festival. So yes. I thought about it back then as well.
So my brother used to live in Oslo, where he was coming out with us that night. Yeah, no, that was a good night. That was a crazy night. I loved it. Oslo's a great place. We were there at Christmas. I was going to ask you something else there that popped into my mind about your whiskies, but it's just disappeared. I'm not very professional, like I said. I've absolutely loved chatting with you. I've actually learned some new things as well about you, which is quite nice because we've known each other for a while. We know each other well. Scottish. What's your favourite Scottish word?
I heard you asking Mark this other night about the Doric. Do you know what? I use words that Douglas Cook actually laughs at me and tasting something like shuchel. Just give it a shuchel. You know what I mean? It's like
shuchel. I think I know what that means. That can also be a dance. Get a shuchel.
Yeah, it's not even just shuchel. It's shuchel. You got to get the in there. Give it a shuchel. But there's many strange words I use. Some of them probably don't even exist, and I've just made them up myself, to be honest. But they always get a laugh.
When you have a Scottish accent, you just get away with this, don't you? That's you. You can just say it.
Actually, one thing about talking about the kilt, this is probably the longest period in 10 years I've not worn my kilt either. So it seems strange actually having my trousers on.
Right enough, because that's part of your staff uniform. I have a great picture of you when a new pair of trousers arrived in the office and you were trying them out. Do you still wear your truce?
That's too big for me. I need to get somebody to take them in. So they did become a bit, I need to get them altered a little bit.
Weight in lockdown?
Pardon?
Are you losing weight in lockdown?
Most of the time, it just shows you about travelling. Although you feel healthy when you're travelling and you try and keep healthy when you're travelling, I've actually lost about 5 kilograms at home.
I tell you where they are. sitting on this lady here. I've put it on. I've put on weight this holiday, this lockdown. I've got a question from Andreas. He's asking what's your favourite Scottish beer? That's a good question.
Do you know something? Give me a good cold pet of vitamin T. Good pet of Tennent's. Honest to goodness, I'll take a pet of Tennent's. On a warm, hot day, I'll take a pet of Tennent's anytime. Nice.
Yeah, I think a few people would agree with that, actually, surprisingly, because...
And one of my favourite beers, I think it might be Swedish, I think. Is it Swedish or Danish? Can't remember, but do you know the Piston Head?
Piston Head? I think that's Swedish, yeah. Yeah.
That's my favourite other beer. And again, it's just a simple lager, but I love it.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, that's another thing that's booming at the moment is beer and craft ales and craft beers. We've got friends in Wales that are selling beer that are doing really well, lovely. Is there any breweries in Elgin?
There is. There's Windswept and Lossy. Again, great beer. Mm-hmm. And there used to be an old brewery here, and I think Elgin in its city itself hasn't got one as such, but there's a lovely old building that's still got an old water wheel, actually, which I always go by and think, God, that would be a great wee brewery to back up again. But yeah, I think, see, when it comes to craft beers, it's like I don't drink a lot at home in lockdown. I've not had a beer since. And sometimes if you're wanting a beer, you need to find the right time for it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I always have a drink because I actually feel like we're having a good chat. Like when I'm chatting to my friends like this, I will have a drink because I think it's nice just to chill out with you. But during lockdown, I haven't had a lot. I've not been drinking that much. Andreas saying he thinks Piston Head is maybe Finnish, so he could be right. I'm sorry. I'm not. I thought it was Swedish, but that doesn't mean it's right, of course. But yes, you're probably right. Okay, well, Stewart, I am so chuffed to have spent this last hour, and according to your clock there, another 10 extra minutes that we got on there with you. So keep up the good work. Are you going to work tomorrow morning again? Anywhere exciting?
Yeah, no, because not going to anywhere to site tomorrow. I'm going to Denver on Saturday.
Denver on Saturday. And are you doing a tasting or a training or?
It's a tasting, a bar tasting, good whiskey.
Bar tasting.
So that's it. So yeah, and then goodness knows, I think we're pretty much stacked all the way through. But as we mentioned earlier, if anybody is out there and maybe looking to do something, let us know. Because we can hopefully squeeze something in.
Well, I think you might have a request from Dubai from this chat. I'm sure there'll be more. Anybody that's got a whiskey society or interested in having a tasting with Stewart, just let us know because he's up for it. He's liking it. I was planning to talk to you about your garden and your motorbikes, but we've talked a little bit about your engine, your petrol head, but there is not enough time, and we both have other things to do, I suppose. But we should meet up after this lockdown and just have a 3D drink.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a fair get together, let's say. With all of us actually at some point, but you know yourself again, you're always welcome. There's always a spare room for you. I
know, great house, great spare rooms, very comfortable bed.
And actually, your strawberry plants have come back to life again.
Hey,
remember the strawberry plants you left me? They've come back to life again, so I'm getting cheered out of them.
Excellent, I like it. So they should probably, so they're a couple of years old now, so now they should be giving proper fruit.
Yeah, good.
Oh, look, I can't wait to catch up with you in 3D. That will be a lovely time. I might bring my boys up and let them camp in your garden. Pitch a tent in your garden while I'm sleeping in the spare bed. But thank you so much, Stewart. And what a great job you're doing with Glenglassaugh, BenRiach and Glendronach. I know everybody that hears about these brands know you and they love you. So thank you.
It's easy when the whiskey's so good. But no, you got to love it. And again, loving seeing you doing your thing as well.
And I'll put it up on YouTube, so anybody that wants to watch it that has missed bits of it, then you'll find the whole video. I'll add this last bit onto it as well. Okay. Cool. Take care. Have a nice day.
Thank you, Jen. Guys.
Bye. Bye-bye.